Lynch. 2 seconds, 1 second. Kobe pump fake. Kobe for the win. Kobe the dagger.
1-2. He loops out to left field. Going to be a tough play. Jeter on the run, makes the play, and flies into the stands. Oh, what a play by Derek Jeter.
Roethlisberger, last time, throws to the back of the end zone, and it is caught for a touchdown by Holmes.
This is the Personal Foul Podcast. I am your host, Colton Gesser. Got an exciting show on deck. Special guest Colin Thompson from the Carolina Panthers and also the host of the Not For Long Media. Colin, thanks for coming on.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me. It's awesome to be on.
It's an honor to have you. You know, when I was interning at 97.3, I heard your name popped around a few times. And remember on my drives home, still listening to 97.3 and hearing them talking to you and sitting there after you caught that touchdown. We'll get into that in a little bit. But, tell us a little about the season, man. It was definitely a crazy season this year with COVID-related stuff. And I want to see how you guys handled it.
Well, I'll tell you, this is the first year I kept a journal. I always was told, keep a journal, write things down. For my mom, who actually you're local to this area. She just she owns the Original Fudge Kitchen now and a bunch of stores all around the Jersey Shore, LSL brands. And she's like, you got to write things down. You got to write things down. Always good, bad, and different. Journal. And all my journals were about like negative things, like when I broke my foot at Florida or when I was having troubled times when I was at Temple. But I was never any positive. So I'm like, all right, well, here's my time. I'm going to write a journal entry every single day as much as I can and just hammer down notes about what's going on, because this is a time that will probably never happen again, hopefully. And I'm in the NFL for the first time, and I've been grinding at this thing for 4 years, truly in the NFL. I've been on and off teams and practice squads, but to be on a roster and be a part of something. So I went through the training camp, and I just took notes, man. I took notes on everything, getting tested every day. We had practices get halted because someone had COVID maybe or didn't have COVID and close contact and what didn't. I'm talking middle of practice, like pause. So just crazy, like just craziness. But it was great. I mean, our ops department, operations, and Coach Rule and Mr. Tepper, our owner, David Tepper, everybody just did a first-class job. I mean, it's not cheap to do it the right way. And they did it the right way. It was crystal clear. We were all spread out throughout the locker room, and then we were spread out into meeting rooms, and our meeting rooms were up into our stadium, which is kind of unique. Our facilities underneath of our stadium. So we were spread out. I had my own suite, my own little personal suite, like the 10-seat suites you sit in games. Yeah. I had my own. So we'd have meetings in there, virtual meetings in there.
That's awesome.
I bring my food in there. So if we were like in high contact or a lot of people in the building had COVID, we'd eat in those private rooms. So it was very unique in that sense where there was just so many things. So, man, when you start answering that question, and a lot of people do, my first response is to put it in perspective. It was such an impactful year. I had to write things down because it was so crazy. But hey, man, it was no different. The football was still football, which was great, and that was a great escape from everything going on. To be able to work during COVID, make money during COVID, is a blessing. Really is, and it was a wild year.
Yeah, it definitely was a wild year. I'm glad you brought into that perspective, being a Steeler fan, watching guys like Joe Hayden and stuff posting their funny videos from the suites and stuff. It's like, all right, what are they doing in the suites? What is actually the background of this? What are they doing in there? Is that where they're changing? Since they're not really supposed to be in the locker room. You gave us that perspective there, and that's absolutely crazy. Yeah. The way, the season was and the way your organization handled it.
Yeah, it was definitely unique. But, hey, they found a way to get it done, and that's what it was all about is we got to find a way to execute. Coach Rule's always about being the best, that you can be in that moment. We, control everything, worry about the things we can control, and that was, COVID was a major hurdle this year. You couldn't just have a normal walkthrough. You couldn't just have a normal lift, 10 guys to a lift at a time, mask required during lifts. And then practice, we had these plastic shields on over the bottom part of our face mask there. It was hard to breathe. I had to take my visor off. That protected my eyes. Now I had to protect my spit from other people. It's just extremely interesting. And again, that's why I wrote things down, because I'm like, all right, I got to do this because this will be a journal one day. Who knows if it's a book or whatever, it's even worth it. But I was like, this is impactful. And it was good for me because it was so different. I'm like, I got to write things out, how the day went, what happened in that day, what was some of the COVID trauma. And again, there was a lot of not drama, but a lot of issues around the world. It's the sports world we're talking about during those times of, Are we going to have a season? Are we not going to have a season? Leading up to the season was chaos. In July, we're sitting around, my dad's bar down here in Cape May in our house, and he's just like, we have the NFL Players Association, calls on speakerphone, and players are like, we're not going to work. This COVID thing's crazy. I got family. I have kids. So much more unique than your normal year because you're worried about people's health. And
yeah, absolutely. I had Chris Wormley on from the Steelers, from the University of Michigan on in August, going into the season. I asked him, I'm like, you guys think you're playing? So, like, you're a player. You're in the loops here of what's going on. The media's just out here guessing. You guys think you're going to get a full season? He said yes, and he was correct. We got a Super Bowl in. But I asked him what were his thoughts on opting out, because you had multiple players opt out this season. Clearly, I think it was only 3 teams that didn't get hit with an opt-out. I believe it was the Steelers, Falcons, and I'm forgetting the other team that didn't have an opt-out. But I want to hear your thoughts. Clearly, you played. Did you have any conversations where you were questioning possibly opting out?
No, because this was my first year of actually getting another bite. I was like, I'm not opting out. I can't afford that one. But not that there's a problem that those other guys didn't, or even if they're first-year players that did it. Good for them. I mean, I have no problem with it. To each his own. This is different than doesn't make you a soft person or player because you decided not to play this year. I mean, this was a worldwide pandemic. Obviously, this is something that we really don't know anything about, and it seems like we still don't know anything about. So it didn't cross my mind, no. But I could see why it would cross other people's minds, and I understand why. I mean, a lot of guys support their families. They support their grandparents, or they support their parents, or their parents live with them so they can go to work, and their kids can be watched by their parents, and the parents could have, illness in their their old age. So it's got so many more layers than the normal hurdles of the season. And, credit to the NFL, credit to us in Carolina getting through it, and everything was good. We played all our games on schedule and really had no major issues.
Yeah, there was plenty of teams that had their stuff messed with this season. But going into more of your journey, as you said, you bounced around the league, to practice squad, then to the XFL. How was that experience? I want to hear more. This is my first time talking to someone who's been in the XFL like that. How was that experience? I know it was 1 year, and thankfully it worked out for you. You worked out for a few other players. How'd that work out for you?
I say the same thing every time someone asks me this question. I thought it was a very first-class operation. We were fed 2 meals a day. Our lodging was paid for. We had a roommate and a hotel room. Okay, that's fine. I mean, this is minor league football. You're telling me your lodging's paid for. You get fed breakfast and lunch, and there's enough food at lunch to take later for dinner if you really don't want to go get dinner somewhere. And you get to play football on national TV, and you get to practice, and you get to lift. In season. So I took it as I'm going to be playing in this NFL season moving forward, and I'm going to train accordingly. So I lifted a little harder in season in the XFL than I would probably in a regular season. I spent more time in the weight room. I ran extra. I did a lot more than I usually do just because I knew, okay, great. I need to be ready to play the games, but I'm only playing 30, 40 snaps maybe. I can maybe even less than that in the XFL, maybe 20. So I need to be ready to, it's not like I'm expending tons of energy. I'll just get ready for the NFL season. And probably looking back, I was like, yeah, maybe I got lucky. I made the NFL because not a lot of guys did it. It's unreal, but it was different, man. I was able to prepare and watch film and do a lot of different things that you don't get to do when you play minor league football. I mean, it's tough. So they did it really first class. We traveled right, flew private. We private bus everywhere, stayed in nice hotels. I mean, our first away game was actually in New York, and then we stayed right on the water overlooking the city, New York City, which was cool. Played MetLife Stadium, and then our second game was at Seattle. We traveled a lot. Our first 5 weeks, we traveled a ton. We went to Seattle, stayed right downtown, played in a great area. I went to breakfast the next morning with family. I'm like, this is awesome. This is really cool, man. I get to see family, friends, do different things. And then when we played in Seattle, it was so loud. It's 35,000 people. Again, this is a minor league football game that, yeah, of course, there's a social media movement for a year, but what's that worth? The players put it together. The coaches put it together. Yeah. The general managers, Vince McMahon. And you couldn't have had a better person buy it, it seems, in The Rock. It seems like they're doing some talks with the CFL, maybe a possible merger for what I read. So I think it's great. Let's make more opportunity to get it going. And again, The Rock, obviously successful business person, but a successful football player too. So it's a great story, and I hope the league makes it. And the league is fantastic. I love where we were at in Tampa. What a great city to play in. And I love my time in the XFL.
Yeah, it paid off for you, and hopefully with the CFL and XFL, if they do have a merger, it'd be good for everyone. You know, it worked out for a few players. You are one of them. Talking about your experience now in the NFL, you had your first lick as a full-time season player this year. We'll get into your touchdown in a minute here, but what was it like, Matt Rule, Christian McCaffrey, Teddy Bridgewater? What was it like playing for the Panthers?
It was incredible. To play for a first-class organization is not just coach speak or some cliche situation. It's fantastic to go to work every day with a great group of people, or that a place that values just being a good person, as well as being a good football player is really cool. And that's not the case everywhere, truly. So I'm blessed to go to work there every day, and to had gone to work there every day this past fall. It was just unreal, and into the new year. So I love my time there. I signed another 1-year deal there, and I hope to sign a bunch of deals there for the rest of my career. I love it. I would love to play there and continue to play there. And, it's weird for me signing another deal. I just see myself as another guy going to train again, trying to make the team. I don't feel any job security whatsoever. I never did a day in my life, which is good. And it's kept me going. So what a great place to play. Great city, a lot going on. And it's a shame with COVID. Everyone comes up to me and says, you should have seen this thing before COVID. What an awesome city it was. So I'm looking forward to that next year. And like I said, I love my teammates. Mentioned Teddy Bridgewater, Christian McCaffrey, a bunch of my teammates from Temple. There were 6 of us on the team at one point in time. I think maybe even 7 or 8, plus all the staff members there. I would say about 15 to 20 staff members I know from Temple or Baylor, where Coach Rule made his stops before, and I played for Coach Rule when I was at Temple. So a lot of familiarity, and that's not normal when it comes to the NFL and pro sports. Usually you may know one person that went to your college, coached at your college, or knows a friend that coached you 3 years ago. But to go to work with maybe about 30 people that won a championship with in college in 2016, it is very unique. And to be able to play in the NFL is, unreal, especially, again, maybe giving people some relief and some joy and some fun during some pretty tough time.
Absolutely. I, for one, enjoyed this season. I need football in my life. A lot of people did, and certainly did enjoy that. Going a little bit more on Matt Rule, his first head coaching gig here. What was it like? Guy coming from Baylor, as you said, had stops at Temple and other places. What do you think of his job so far as head coach there in Carolina, especially in a tough division? That division was absolutely loaded with the Saints, and clearly the Super Bowl champs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, and Atlanta's a great team too.
Yes, absolutely.
Obviously, tons of talent, loaded team, and they beat us. I think early on, we beat them, and they came to us, and then they beat us on a Thursday night. That was our only primetime game, I believe. And Atlanta too. So that's a really good division in football, and I think highly of our club because of Coach Rule and because of the team, the staff he put together. I've known Coach for a really long time now. It seems 2014, 2013. So yeah, it's Coach and I have a great relationship, and I love playing for him. Point blank period. He's a great person to play for, work for. He's pretty cut and dry what he expects and wants, and that's just your full undivided attention and working hard, and whenever wherever your feet are is to be where where you need to be, and that's really in the moment, and he kind of dialed in on what's going on in that moment. So I love playing for Coach Rule. I hope I'm there for all his success because it's going to happen. I hope I'm there long enough for it. I really do, and I'm going to do everything in my power, physically and mentally, to make that happen because truly there'll be success in Carolina. Just hope I'm there for the ride. I really do.
I hope you are as well. Would love to keep talking to you. Another thought on the roster itself. There's been a lot of rumors and stuff about Teddy Bridgewater. I think he removed stuff from social media as regarding the Panthers. There's talks of them drafting a guy in this upcoming draft here since the pick's kind of up there a little bit. They have an opportunity to get one of those guys, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, possibly Mac Jones. Who knows? What are your thoughts on everything with Teddy Bridgewater? Because we saw what success he had when he filled in for Drew Brees. He was successful when he was there in Carolina at times. What are your thoughts on Teddy?
I think he's a great player. And that's not just a teammate. To just saying that to have to say it. I think Teddy's a great player. I faced Teddy in the Sugar Bowl in 2012. I didn't play. I was just coming off injury, but I was at Florida, and I saw Teddy light us up. We were the best defense in college football other than probably Bama. That was the year that Bama ran through Notre Dame in the final. And I saw Teddy light us up after he got laid out by John Bostic, who plays for the Redskins now. And I was like, wow, man, this guy's down and out. This guy's down and out. This game's over. We're going to run away with it. And Teddy lit us up, and we ended up getting smoked in the Sugar Bowl. So I've had a lot of respect for Teddy. That was New Year's 2013, January 1st, 2013. I believe the game was on the Sugar Bowl. So I've had a lot of respect for him for quite some time now, 10 years, just about. And he's a beast. He's a beast. I'm a huge fan of Teddy Bridgewater just because of his leadership, his ability, his talent. He knows the offense well, and he communicates me, helps me out a bunch, and we work well with Teddy. I think at times last year, we as an offense put Teddy in bad situations. I don't think you can sit there and say, "Oh, Teddy didn't perform well." For me as a player, that's someone in the building. I think that we didn't perform well around him. That's the point of a team, right? To pick each other up. So I'm a huge Teddy Bridgewater fan. I think you can win a Super Bowl with Teddy Bridgewater in this league. Absolutely. And he's a great guy. He's always been great to me and a great teammate, which to me, that's everything at the end of the day.
Yeah, especially the way he filled in for the Shoes in New Orleans, and it looked like they were better with Teddy. And I think, to be fair, the credit is not there in giving Teddy any slack. Without Christian McCaffrey, that is a ginormous piece to an offense. And what McCaffrey played 2-3 games, I think, this year. I had him in fantasy, so I should know. It kind of hurt me a lot.
3.
But so he played 3 games, and that was it. That tells you enough to know that's a big piece of your offense and a lot of money going to a player that is not involved in an offense. And I think Teddy, I thought, got the steal last year in free agency is Carolina. I thought Teddy was a steal for what Carolina got him for. I think it could have easily been a lot more money that Teddy could have received. I think it was a steal for Carolina. I think he still has a lot to prove. The guy's been through a heck of a lot from Minnesota, almost not being able to play in the NFL again, to New Orleans, getting a stop there, does a great job and gets himself a contract in Carolina. As you just said, I think he's the guy, and I think he can bring success to Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned C-Mac. That guy's unreal too. I mean, he's unreal. I feel bad for him, obviously being hurt. That's true. I've been there, and people look at you like, "Oh, you're hurt." Like it's like, "Oh, no big deal." I mean, that's a huge effect on your mind, everything. Like he's never been really hurt before. He has never missed games. The guy works so hard. He works so hard. He sacrifices so much. He trains like just an Olympic athlete. Like the guy's on a different level than everybody else that I can publicly see. And then getting to know him a little bit, he's just such a workhorse. And to work that hard and then just have little nicks and knacks that you can go play, but you're going to be like unfunctionable, or like a high ankle sprain or a shoulder. Like that's real stuff. That's not a little ankle sprain. That's a high ankle. Like that's a career ender, to some extent, but they enough of them can really hurt you. So he's a monster. He'll be back. He'll tear it up next year. I was looking forward to having an opportunity to block for him, and I'm looking forward to it again next year. I did a few times this year, but yeah, I'm looking forward to next year blocking for him for sure. He makes me look a lot better than I am.
Waiting for a healthy CMC for sure.
Yeah.
Since you talked how amazing it was being around a guy like that, kind of helps me out here waiting this question. Is there a player that you were starstruck over? Is there a player that you came along, whether you're playing against or playing with, like a McCaffrey, that made you like, holy crap, I'm in the NFL. This is like the Obi Toppin quote from LeBron James at the All-Star game this weekend. Came up to LeBron, came up to Obi Toppin, was like, "What's up, Obi?" He goes, "You know my name?" Is there a player that just made you go, wow, like, holy crap, I'm in the NFL?
Wow. It's a great question. I get it a lot. Not in the sense that like it's an over-asked question. I enjoy it because I have somebody new every time. It's funny. So I watch on film, I maybe get more of the awe. Like, wow, preparing for JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, and Shaq Barrett this weekend. And then you're out there and you're like, you don't have time to think about it because you got to go. They're really good. So, Chandler Jones in Arizona, Khalil Mack. We face a legitimate pass rusher every week. Every week, there's somebody on the team that's like a legit run stopper, pass rusher.
The division's loaded. The division's loaded with them itself.
Cameron Jordan, Hendrickson. We have guys, Atlanta, Dante Fowler, an old buddy of mine. McKinney, I think, was hurt then early in the season before he got moved. But I mean, legit dudes. So you got to bring it every week. I mean, that's the NFL anywhere, but these guys are the best players on the team, let alone anywhere. So I was more focused on, trying not to screw it up than the starstruck stuff. I guess, seeing Gronk was cool. Gronk's a legend, someone I looked up to. I will say this. Let me take this back. But first week, we were playing Las Vegas Raiders. I got to get used to saying that now instead of Oakland, don't we all? But playing the Vegas Raiders, and I found out I'm inactive. So I started running. I'm like, all right, I'm not playing. I'm going to start running, jogging, just doing, 50-yard little tempo run just to say I did something that day and sweated a little bit and feel productive on a day I'm not playing in the game. It's my first time playing, suiting up. No one's in the stands. It's very weird. But I'm standing there warming up, and I'm standing there on the 50, and here comes the man. Jason Witten comes running by me, and I'm like, oh, my God, that's Jason Witten. Like, wow, that is crazy. Last year, dude, you were calling Temple football games on the radio. I mean, XFL is one thing. I was calling Temple football games on the radio, traveling in the back of the plane, to Temple games and making whatever I made for the weekend and doing marketing for different companies and trying to start a podcast again. Not for Long Media is back and better than ever, folks. Check it out. To now I'm warming up next to Jason Witten, one of the greatest tight ends of all time, a guy that I've watched thousands of hours of on film and really try to mimic on and off the field because he's philanthropic. He's a great man. He's a family man and a ton of success. And a lot of the Eagles fans are, but every Eagles fan likes Jason Witten. I don't think anybody can say they don't like the guy. He's a legend, or at least they respect him. So
yes,
growing up in Eagles country, man, I always like when the Eagles played the Cowboys because I got to watch him. And then I got older I got. So to answer your question, took a minute there for me, but probably more of the offensive guys because I watch a ton of their stuff too. So defensive guys I got to try to figure out. Khalil Mack, they're all really good. I don't have time to think about it. But, yeah, Jason Witten was a big one.
Probably my last one before I get into your podcast a little bit here. What was it like catching a touchdown, man? There's not many guys I can sit here and say, yeah, I caught an NFL touchdown in my time. You could say you did it this year. And I remember sitting there when you were on 97.3 and they were talking about your touchdown. And I'm sitting there texting. I think Hunter was still there. I'm texting him. I'm like, yo, someone put a bet on him to score, like the first touchdown score or something this weekend, and someone hit big on it. And I think they asked you about it. What are your thoughts on catching an NFL touchdown? It's not a lot of people can say they have that to their resume, but you can.
Well, I want to find out who bet on the game. So anybody out there's listening to this who did it, because somebody was all over DraftKings. Someone bet I think $100 or no, bet $10 to win $1,500. It's for me to be the first scorer of the game, not just first scorer. I didn't even have a catch yet, not even a target. So it was pretty cool, man. I think I may have had a target in Atlanta game. Someone told me, but long story short, we run this run play a lot, and we ran just a fake off of it. And I popped wide open. That's the long story short version of it. And I ran my ass off as fast as I could to the corner of the end zone and looked up, and there was the ball. And the wind was like, I remember talking to the punter and snapper that day because I'm our backup long snapper, depends who's inactive and active. So I'll do some snapping throughout the game just in case, a nightmare situation. I got to go out there and rip some snaps. So I was talking to JJ and our Jansen, our snapper, and Charlton, our punter, and they're like, yeah, the wind's really moving big out of the west. This was early in the game. Okay, no problem. They're really in tune to it. I'm not really – I don't even care. We're just playing tight end. I don't have to worry about the wind, right? But they have to. So the ball goes up. We're going to the west end of the field there, and the ball is a perfect spiral, and all of a sudden the ball just stops in midair. And I had to box out Winfield Jr. in a way, and if it was like a quarter second later, he tips that ball, no touchdown, none of these stories happen. I probably don't get another opportunity. And it just all, the stars aligned. I caught the ball, and I fell on the ground. I was like, holy crap, dude, you just scored an NFL touchdown. Like, that's just insane. And then jumped up and down and hugged the guys and moved on. Got ready for field goal. So nonetheless, man, it's just an unreal thing. And just calling my parents after, couldn't come because of COVID and all these different things. And just the grind it's been to get back into the league and, actually really truly make some plays and be a part of a team is really what's been special to me. And really what I'll never forget is everyone's reactions when I scored. I mean, I didn't see them until later. I knew people were excited for me on the sideline. That's just normal. But to see everyone's reactions when, I didn't even know what they were happening. It was really cool. So it was a special moment. I'll never forget it.
You put a lot of hard work in, and it's, I'm glad it paid off for you. It's been for a long time for you. So, again, glad it paid off for you, and you're coming back again next year with Carolina. Thoughts one more time on that play, though. Was that a drawn-up play for you with a boot, and you're supposed to be the guy on that play?
Yeah, I was the first read, and then
That's
Ian
awesome.
Thomas is the second read. So, yeah, we both block. He blocks like a second longer than I do, and then, yeah. I was supposed to block probably longer, but the guy bit so hard because we run it so much. I just hit a little swim move on him and took off because I knew he just bit on it. There's nothing I couldn't have sold it anymore.
That's awesome. So to wrap this up, it's been a blast talking to you. Tell us a little bit about your podcast. I know you got that back and going again, Not For Long Media. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it used to be the Not For Long podcast, and I changed it back to Not For Long Media because we're moving to a bunch of different things. It started when I started with the New York Giants, 2016, 17, I forget. So over 4 or 5 years ago now, I started the podcast when I got cut by the Giants. I had emergency appendectomy and found out the NFL stood for Not For Long. So that's why I started the podcast, and I just started grinding. And then eventually it would stop because I would join a team and I wanted to show the team that I was completely focused on them, not some podcast that's a hobby for me, So now I'm like, hey, it's time. Now every player's got a freaking podcast, and I'm just trying to keep up with them. So it's a little more publicly accepted now, which doesn't really matter, but I feel a little bit more comfortable doing them now more than ever. Everybody has one. So having my friends on that I've met over the years through social media that are big stars, like Doug Ellen. Doug's coming up next, episode 5. He's a creator of Entourage, the TV show. And then $20 Chef, Sean Latham.
That's awesome.
He was on. He's crazy. The lead singer of Iration, band I love. They're the music of our podcast. We did a tribute to John Chaney. Going to have a bunch of college football guys that I know that are going to be big draft picks coming up. They're coming on. We went to the same high school with 2 guys, Kyle Pitts and Mark Webb. There's a bunch, man. So a bunch of different cool guests. It's going to be fun. I mean, more Joe Rogan style where we're just letting it rip and having a good time. No real agenda. No just pure sports or pure whatever. It's just going to be all whoever I'm feeling that day or whoever I can get. So I love it, man. Not For Long Media, YouTube-based show that we just turned into a podcast, and I appreciate everyone's support. It's been a heck of a ride.
Absolutely. Can't wait to go more into your journey. Definitely talk more down the road. This show's going to be posted next week. Folks, be on the lookout again for our show we just had recently with Matt Starks, 2-time Super Bowl champ from the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, thank you, Colin. We'll drop everything. Follow Colin on Twitter at Colin Thompson, I believe, correct?
Colin Thompson TU on Twitter, and then Colin Thompson 86 on Instagram. Yeah.
Beautiful. So I don't have to look at my phone. So that's a wrap for the Personal Foul Podcast.